Hey everyone, let's unpack something pretty significant happening in the world of AI next week. It sounds like Super Grok subscribers are getting early beta access to Grok 3.5, and when you hear someone like Elon Musk calling something a profound leap or talking about uncharted territory, you really have to sit up and listen, right? The core claim here seems to be all about first principles reasoning. Now, that might sound a bit complex, but the basic idea is that this AI isn't just going to be about finding answers that are already out there online. Instead, Grok 3.5 is apparently designed to tackle really tough scientific or technical questions almost from scratch. It's supposed to be able to work through problems even if the direct answer isn't just sitting there on the web waiting to be found. So, yeah, it's not just about being a better search engine. The goal seems to be for Grok 3.5 to actually think, to analyze things deeply, and ideally generate genuinely new and practical insights. And we're talking about some seriously tricky fields here. They've mentioned things like rocket engine thermodynamics and electrochemistry. It really feels like Musk's strategy is to position Grok as the leader in this specific kind of deep technical thinking. Maybe even a direct challenge to competitors like Google Gemini, especially in those science and math areas. This whole first principles approach is a real shift. Traditional AI is often amazing at finding patterns in massive datasets. Think image recognition or language translation. But Grok 3.5 is supposedly built differently. The idea is that it constructs its understanding based on fundamental laws, like physics and chemistry, essentially building answers by modeling things right down at a foundational level, like particle interactions or energy transfer. It's about constructing solutions rather than just retrieving existing ones. So, what's the payoff for us? For people listening? Well, imagine an AI that could genuinely figure out new ways to solve challenging engineering problems. The source material even mentions something like finding undocumented engine cooling methods. Or it could instantly check if a brand new idea is even scientifically plausible. Does it violate conservation laws? Things like that. For companies like SpaceX and Tesla, this sounds like it could be a massive boost for innovation, potentially driving completely new tech. This brings up the question of why focus on these specific hard science domains. The material points to areas that are obviously critical for Musk's companies. Rocket science and aerospace engineering make total sense. Propulsion, thermodynamics, how materials handle extreme stress. And then there are electrochemical systems, which cover things like batteries, fuel cells, corrosion science, and industrial sensors. It's a pretty focused list, also touching on advanced materials, environmental monitoring, and water treatment, things like gas detection and water purification. It's interesting how these specialized fields actually connect to things we might see or use in our daily lives. Breakthroughs here could mean faster rockets, EVs that go much further on a single charge, or even more resilient infrastructure that lasts longer. We're talking tangible improvements. Let's dive a bit deeper into electrochemistry, which the source calls a kind of hidden bedrock for a lot of what Musk wants to achieve with Tesla and SpaceX. If your high school chemistry is a little rusty, electrochemistry is basically the science of how electrons move during chemical reactions. These redox reactions. It's like a tiny electrical dance that powers so much. And if Grok 3.5 can truly master that dance, the implications are pretty big. Take corrosion control, for example. Tesla cars deal with road salt and weather, SpaceX rockets face launch stress, the vacuum of space. Even tiny meteorite impacts causing oxidation. How would Grok help? Potentially by predicting problems. It could simulate how a new alloy interacts with salt spray or even Martian dust. Based on those simulations, it might suggest better protective coatings, optimized electroplating techniques, or even guide the development of self-healing materials. The bottom line is longer-lasting vehicles, safer spacecraft, and less maintenance. Then there's energy storage, batteries, and fuel cells. The material talks about going beyond current lithium-ion tech. This is where Grok's ability to model fundamental chemistry could be huge, modeling things like solid-state electrolytes or batteries, using different ions, stuff that's really hard to figure out experimentally. This could seriously speed up Tesla's battery development, leading to higher energy density and faster charging, but potentially achievable much quicker with AI doing that heavy modeling work. And for space applications, There are electrochemical sensors. These are essentially how we turn chemistry into data. Grok's edge here seems to be prediction again, predicting how a sensor would respond to tiny trace amounts of a contaminant, which helps design better, more sensitive, and more selective sensors. Designing those redox electrodes more effectively is key for safety and gathering good data. The last one in this section was water treatment, which is also critical, especially for things like recycling wastewater on Starship or filtering contaminated water at remote sites where you can't just tap into a municipal supply. Electrochemical methods like using salt electrolysis for disinfection are important here, and Grok could optimize those systems for throughput, energy efficiency, and effectiveness against specific tricky contaminants. Wow, that's a lot just within electrochemistry. It really shows the depth they're aiming for. Switching gears to rocket science, Musk talks about this publicly quite a bit. Pump feed cycles, injector stability, nozzle expansion ratios. Pretty complex concepts. The source suggests there's a dual purpose to these public discussions, especially now thinking about Grok 3.5. First, it's partly public education, demystifying this stuff, trying to get people interested and inspire future engineers and scientists. Grok could really amplify that. Imagine reading or listening to Musk and Grok instantly providing deeper explanations, diagrams, or even quick simulations to illustrate the point, making it much more interactive. The other purpose is internal R&D acceleration for the SpaceX engineers themselves. Using Grok as a tool, imagine them being able to query Grok like, what's the optimal combustion chamber shape for these parameters? Or suggest novel ablative materials for re-entry. Or quickly analyzing performance trade-offs, like thrust versus pressure versus cooling needs for an engine like Raptor. It could massively speed up that whole design iteration process. Zooming out even further, the source talks about a grand vision: AI-augmented astronauts and a multi-planetary civilization. This is where it gets really ambitious, almost sci-fi, but they paint some compelling scenarios, like an astronaut mid-flight asking Grok to analyze a weird system reading, maybe a pump surge warning, and getting real-time advice, or guidance on using local resources on Mars' ISRO processes, or even step-by-step instructions for an emergency repair. It's like having an incredibly knowledgeable technical advisor right there with you. And on the surface, on Mars, or maybe even Titan, the idea extends there too, Grok acting as a kind of AI habitat systems engineer, helping manage life support, balancing the chemistry in bioreactors growing food, or troubleshooting equipment extracting water or oxygen from the Martian regolith, on-site AI guidance. That's pretty wild. And it even mentions research settlers proposing experiments, maybe analyzing Martian perchlorates or the organic chemistry on Titan. Grok could help validate if the experiment is feasible, design the setup, and analyze the data coming back. That's the vision, a real catalyst for discovery on new worlds. It's really emphasized that this isn't about replacing people, though. No, definitely not. The framing is very much about symbiosis. Human ingenuity coupled with AI reasoning power. A powerful amplifier, as they put it, for actually making that multi-planetary leap. So bringing this all back, this Grok 3.5 beta next week really sounds like more than just another AI update. It feels like a statement about a different philosophy for AI, one grounded in actual science, scientific reasoning, literacy, and practical applications. It's about tackling fundamental problems, not just language tricks. And for those Super Grok users, and certainly the teams inside Tesla and SpaceX, this could be a really powerful new engine for innovation. It seems positioned to tackle problems that are genuinely hard, even for human experts. It definitely signals Musk's ambitions are way beyond just building a better chatbot. This feels like building blocks for a future where AI is actively driving the science and engineering breakthroughs needed for materials, energy, aerospace, and ultimately space colonization. So the launch next week, it's definitely something to watch. It could be the start of a real shift in how engineering gets done. It'll be fascinating to see how it actually performs and what comes out of it. Definitely keep your mind on the landscape of AI. Maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to ponder. Beyond just rockets and batteries, What other really big, seemingly intractable problems out there might this kind of first principles AI be uniquely suited to help us solve in the coming years? Make sure you follow Albie13 on X.com, where you will find a wealth of AI articles by clicking on the Articles tab of his profile. Signing off.